Hello there, curious dreamer. Welcome back to the Sleepy Oceanographer. Before we dive into the ocean's hidden secrets tonight, I have a soft question for you. Where in the world are you watching from? Are you near the sea or nestled somewhere far from the shore? Wherever you are, I'm glad you're here. Tonight we'll journey beneath the waves to explore one of nature's most mysterious escape artists, the inky defense of sea creatures. From clever squids to graceful octopuses, we'll drift slowly through calming waters and discover how and why some animals vanish in a cloud of ink. Now let's gently float into the deep blue. Far beneath the surface of the ocean, where sunlight fades into quiet blue shadows, there exists a world full of wonder and mystery. In this hidden realm, survival is often about being seen, or not being seen at all, and for some of the ocean's cleverest creatures, the ability to disappear is not just a skill, it's a kind of silent magic. Imagine you're drifting slowly through this underwater world. All around you, delicate strands of seaweed sway like sleepy dancers, fish glitter like living jewels, darting in and out of coral castles. Somewhere nearby, a gentle current carries the hush of distant whale song. The ocean feels endless, timeless and calm, but danger is always close, a flash of teeth, a shadow overhead. In the deep sea, you must be ready to act in an instant. Now, picture a small octopus curled up in a rock crevice. Its skin shimmers as it changes colour to blend perfectly with the reef. It watches, it waits. Suddenly, a predator approaches, a quick flicker of movement, maybe a moray eel, sharp-eyed and searching. The octopus must act fast. With no time to hide and no place to run, the octopus performs an ancient and extraordinary trick. It releases a cloud of ink. In an instant, the clear water becomes cloudy and dark. A swirling shape like a ghost or shadow blooms and floats outward, confusing the attacker. For a moment, it's impossible to tell where the octopus went. Has it vanished? Is it still there? That split second of confusion is all it needs. With a jet of water, the octopus shoots away through the cloud it created. It's gone, safe, invisible in the open sea. This is the ocean's disappearing act. For millions of years, certain sea creatures have used this inky defense to vanish from sight. It is one of the most graceful and effective escape mechanisms in the animal kingdom, a combination of chemistry, intelligence, and instinct. The act of inking is fast, elegant, and often silent. It's not just about hiding, it's about misdirection. It creates an illusion, a moment of mystery where reality bends just enough for the hunted to become untouchable. And it's not limited to one kind of animal. Many of the most well-known inking creatures belong to a group called cephalopods, a name that means head-footed. This includes octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish. Each of them has evolved this disappearing act in slightly different ways, suited to their environment and their predators. Some drop ink as a thick smoky cloud. Others create a decoy, a floating inky shape that mimics their own body. Some combine the release of ink with sudden bursts of movement. A spin, a flash, and they're gone. But this isn't just a dramatic escape, it's also a message. Ink in the water says, "I was here, now I'm not." It's a reminder that in the ocean, strength isn't always about size or speed. Sometimes it's about creativity, about knowing when to vanish and how to do it so well that no one even sees you go. In this chapter, we begin our journey into the soft secrets of the sea. We begin by understanding the art of disappearing, the beautiful drifting dance of ink in the water, and the creatures wise enough to use it. We'll learn how it works, why it evolved, and what it tells us about the quiet intelligence hiding in the ocean's most peaceful places. So let's keep floating deeper. There's more to discover in the ink blue silence. In the vast and mysterious world beneath the waves, there are few creatures as fascinating or as elusive as the cephalopods. These animals, whose name means head-footed, include octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish. They glide silently through the water, their soft, boneless bodies moving with effortless grace. To many predators, they might look like easy prey, vulnerable and delicate. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Cephalopods are the masters of escape, and among their many astonishing talents, one stands out like a soft whisper in a storm: the ability to vanish in a puff of ink. These creatures are more than just slippery. They are some of the most intelligent invertebrates on Earth. Their brains are large and complex, their nervous systems intricate, their senses finely tuned. They see the world through camera-like eyes similar in structure to ours, and their ability to process information and react in real time is both beautiful and bewildering. Let's begin with the octopus. Picture one curled in the shallow waters of a coral reef. It doesn't wear a shell, it doesn't carry armour. Its body is soft and flowing, like a silk scarf caught in a breeze. And yet this gentle creature is a master of disguise. In the blink of an eye, it can change the colour and texture of its skin to match its surroundings. A rock, a patch of sand, a piece of coral. Some have even been observed imitating other sea creatures, like venomous lionfish or flatfish, to scare off attackers. But when camouflage fails, the octopus has one last trick: ink. Tucked inside its body is an ink sac, like a tiny pressurized bottle of liquid shadow. When threatened, the octopus contracts muscles around the sac and releases the ink through its siphon, a small tube it also uses for propulsion. The ink flows out in a sudden dark cloud, sometimes as a shapeless smear, other times as a decoy shaped like the octopus itself. This ghostly twin hangs in the water for a moment, while the real octopus jets away, leaving confusion and darkness behind. Squids are equally remarkable. Unlike the solitary octopus, many squids live in groups and spend much of their time in open water. This makes them even more vulnerable to fast-swimming predators like sharks and tuna. But squids are built for speed. They have streamlined bodies and fins like wings. They move by drawing water into their bodies and shooting it out through their siphons, jet propulsion in its most elegant form, and just unlike the octopus, the squid carries a hidden weapon. When alarmed, it releases its ink with a sudden burst, creating a curtain of darkness behind it. Some squids can eject ink that contains mucus, allowing the cloud to hold its shape longer in the water. These are called pseudomorphs, and to a chasing predator they can look and move just like the squid itself. While the attacker lunges at the decoy, the real squid is already long gone. Even more enchanting are cuttlefish, gentle, curious creatures with delicate, fluttering fins that ripple along the sides of their bodies like lace. Cuttlefish also possess the power to ink and vanish, but they often use a blend of camouflage and deception first. Their ability to flash hypnotic colours across their skin is unmatched. But when escape is the only option, they too will send out a dark cloud, a distraction made of mystery. What's remarkable is that all these creatures seem to know exactly when to use their ink and when not to. They don't waste it. Ink production takes energy, and it must be used wisely. These animals are calculating, responding to specific threats with specific strategies. Sometimes the ink is thick and heavy, clinging to the water like fog. Other times it's light and fleeting, more like a whisper than a scream, and the way they release it is equally intentional. The timing, the angle, the direction of escape, it all happens within seconds. It's not panic, it's poetry. Perhaps that's what makes these creatures so captivating. They are soft and vulnerable, yet clever and resourceful. They do not meet danger with violence, but with creativity. They do not fight, they vanish. Their greatest strength is the power to disappear. As we drift alongside these graceful beings, it's impossible not to feel a sense of awe. They remind us that intelligence comes in many forms, and that sometimes survival is an art. The ocean has many secrets, but few are as elegant as the ink-swirled vanishing acts of the cephalopods, the true masters of mystery beneath the waves. Let's keep exploring. There are deeper secrets waiting in the shadows. When we think of ink, we often picture the smooth black liquid that flows from pens onto paper, a human invention used to record thoughts, sign names, or bring art to life. But the ink of the ocean is something altogether different. It is older, wilder, and far more mysterious. It is not meant for writing stories, but for erasing presence, a creature's final trace in the water, drifting quietly behind as it escapes. So what exactly is this ink? What is it made of? And how does it work so well that it can turn the ocean itself into a momentary curtain of disappearance? To understand that, we must take a closer look, gently, receptively, inside the body of a cephalopod. Nestled near the digestive system of creatures like octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish lies a small but powerful organ called the ink sac. This little pouch, which resembles a tiny dark balloon, is connected to the animal's funnel-like siphon, the same part it uses to move through the water. When threatened, the creature contracts muscles around the ink sac, squeezing out its contents through the siphon and into the surrounding water. But what comes out is more than just a splash of black. It is a complex mixture, carefully crafted by evolution to do one thing: confuse the predator and protect the creature. The main ingredient in cephalopod ink is melanin, a dark pigment that also gives colour to human skin, hair, and eyes. In the case of these sea creatures, melanin forms a rich, dark suspension that doesn't dissolve easily in water, allowing it to linger in the sea like a spreading shadow. But melanin alone wouldn't be enough to create the dramatic effect we see when an octopus or squid inks. That's where mucus comes in. Along with melanin, many species mix in mucus, a sticky, gelatinous substance that gives the ink its texture and shape. This mucus is what allows the ink to form lasting clouds, or even decoys shaped like the animal itself. When you see an ink shadow or floating shape in a video of a squid escaping a shark, you're looking at a pseudomorph made of melanin suspended in mucus. It's thick enough to block vision, dense enough to hold form, and eerie enough to confuse even the sharpest eyes in the sea. But there's more. Some researchers believe that cephalopod ink may also contain trace chemical compounds, perhaps secreted from glands during times of stress. These could act as mild irritants to a predator's senses, clogging gills, dulling the sense of smell, or causing momentary discomfort. While this theory is still being studied, it opens the door to a deeper understanding of just how multi-layered and sophisticated this ink might be. It is a chemical cocktail, a sensory trick, a smokescreen, a message, and while it may seem simple, a dark puff in the water, it is actually a product of millions of years of careful refinement. It is evolution distilled into fluid form. Ink, when released, spreads rapidly through the water in a mesmerizing bloom. It swirls and drifts, taking on soft, spiraling shapes that float with the currents. In the stillness of the deep sea, it can be hauntingly beautiful, like watching a dream unravel in slow motion. But for the creature that released it, that cloud is a shield, a doorway, a vanishing spell. Different species have different kinds of ink. Some is brownish, some almost purple, but the most common and effective form is deep, jet black. In the daylight, it stands out vividly against the shimmering blue of the sea. In the dark depths, it becomes thick as silence, one that a predator must swim through blindly, uncertain of where its prey has gone. Not all cephalopods use their ink in the same way. Some species, like the deep-sea octopus known as granellodon, have reduced or even completely lost their ink sacs over time. In the pitch-black waters of the ocean's abyss, where light is non-existent and camouflage becomes pointless, ink may no longer serve the same purpose. These creatures rely on stillness, on silence, on blending into the cold nothingness. But in the brighter shallows and mid-water realms, ink is still king. And there's something poetic about that, isn't there? That such a small, silent animal, with no claws or teeth or armour, has developed a defence so subtle and effective. It doesn't fight, it doesn't roar, it simply disappears into a darkness of its own making. We humans invented ink to leave marks, but these ocean creatures use it to vanish. The next time you think of ink, imagine it not on paper, but floating softly through seawater, not forming words but erasing presence, not telling a story but ending one right before your eyes. Let's keep going. There is still so much to uncover in this world of silent wonders and shadowy escapes. The ocean can be a dangerous place. Beneath the gentle rhythm of waves and the peaceful sway of seaweed lies a world where survival depends on quick thinking, clever strategies, and sudden bursts of movement. For many marine animals, especially those without claws, teeth, or protective shells, every second counts when a predator approaches. In that instant of danger, the choice is simple: disappear or be eaten. For creatures like squids and octopuses, vanishing isn't just a last resort, it's an art form. And the way they disappear is as elegant as it is effective, by releasing a cloud of ink and slipping away before their predator even realizes what happened. Let's imagine this from the beginning. A squid glides peacefully through the open water, its fins undulating like silk ribbons. Light filters down in quiet beams, creating a dreamlike glow in the blue below. Suddenly, a shadow darts across the water. A fast approaching predator, maybe a tuna or a shark. There is no cave to hide in, no coral to squeeze beneath. The squid must act, and it must act now. In a fraction of a second, the squid contracts powerful muscles that squeeze its ink sac. A stream of dark fluid rushes through its siphon and into the surrounding water. At the same time, it uses that same siphon to blast itself backward, propelling its body like a torpedo. In one seamless movement, the squid leaves behind a cloud of thick, swirling ink and disappears. To the predator, everything changes. A clear, open ocean becomes murky. A visible target becomes a ghost. The predator might dart into the cloud, snapping at what it thinks is prey, only to bite into nothing but drifting pigment. Meanwhile, the squid is already meters away, hidden, safe, and silent. This is not mindless panic, it's a perfectly timed practice maneuver. It's evolution honed to near perfection, and it works because of three critical elements: misdirection, obstruction, and movement. Misdirection is perhaps the most important. In the chaos of the chase, a predator locks its senses onto a target. Its brain commits to a path, calculating where the prey is, how fast it's moving, and how to intercept it. When a squid or octopus releases ink, it breaks that mental calculation. It interrupts the chase with confusion. Some species even eject ink that mimics their own shape and size, creating a decoy called a pseudomorph. To the predator, this decoy looks exactly like the animal it was chasing. As the hunter strikes at the decoy, the real animal escapes in a different direction. This leads to the second function: obstruction. Ink isn't just visually misleading, it blocks sight entirely. It clouds the water, creating a screen that the predator must swim through. Imagine walking through a dense fog and suddenly losing track of someone who is just ahead of you. The ocean's version of that moment is even more disorienting because water currents carry the ink, stretching it into soft, shifting curtains. Some predators hunt with vision, others with the smell or electric pulses, but the ink interferes with all of it. It's not just a blur, it's a blackout. And then comes movement, the final piece of the puzzle. Inking alone wouldn't be enough if the creature stayed put. Cephalopods pair their inking with rapid motion, shooting away from the cloud using jet propulsion. It's like throwing a smoke bomb and sprinting in the opposite direction. The timing is so precise that many predators lose track of their target in a single heartbeat. The cephalopod becomes a whisper of bubbles, slipping away through the deep. This strategy is used in many different environments. In shallow reefs, the ink may settle quickly, spreading like spilled paint over sand and coral. In the open ocean, it may float freely, drifting with the current, widening into an ink balloon. In deeper waters, where light is scarce, even a faint shadow of ink can be enough to obscure a fleeing animal. Some deep-sea squids have even been seen ejecting glowing ink that contains bioluminescent chemicals to further confuse predators in the pitch-black abyss. And while most people think of ink as a single type of defense, the truth is these animals can choose how to use it. Some octopuses release quick, small bursts, just enough to break line of sight. Others eject thick clouds when cornered, creating a full-screen retreat. Some species save their ink for desperate situations, while others use it more freely, even combining it with sudden changes in skin color and texture for a dramatic escape. There's something poetic in all of this. These soft-bodied animals, vulnerable and shellless, aren't helpless. They don't build walls or wield weapons. Instead, they master illusion. They don't fight, they vanish. And in their vanishing, they teach us something profound. Sometimes the most powerful defense is the ability to leave without being followed. To create just enough mystery, just enough confusion, to slip through the cracks and begin again. So the next time you see a video of a squid disappearing into an inky cloud, or a diver describing the black smoke left behind by a startled octopus, remember that you are witnessing one of nature's oldest and most graceful survival techniques, a dance of chemistry, movement, and ancient instinct, written not in blood but in silence and shadow. And as we drift deeper into this world of clever escapes and underwater illusions, we begin to see the ocean not as a battlefield, but as a stage, one where the softest creatures can still steal the spotlight and then vanish without a trace. In the quiet stillness of the sea, where shadows stretch and sway, and every ripple might signal something more, some of the ocean's most mysterious creatures have developed a defense that is as strange as it is brilliant. It is not just about vanishing into darkness. It's not only about hiding from view. It's about creating something so convincing, so eerily lifelike, that it fools even the sharpest of predators. This is the art of the ink decoy, known scientifically as a pseudomorph, a word that means false form. This strange floating blob is no random splash of ink. It is a carefully crafted illusion, a shadow puppet made of melanin and mucus, designed to mimic the size, shape, and even the movement of the creature that released it. It is not a defensive wall, but a stand-in, a substitute, a twin. Imagine a squid, sleek and shimmering, drifting through the open blue. It senses danger, maybe a fast-moving predator darting in from behind. In an instant, the squid releases not just ink, but a shaped mass of it. Dense, smooth, and roughly the same size as its own body. The squid, meanwhile, rockets off in a different direction. The ink form stays behind, drifting gently, lingering in the predator's path. To the eyes of a chasing shark or fish, this floating shape appears to be the squid itself, stationary, perhaps wounded, vulnerable. In that split-second decision, the predator lunges, jaws snapping, striking the decoy instead. And by the time it realizes the mistake, the real squid is gone, already one with the current, leaving behind only a fading shadow. What makes this trick so powerful is that it exploits the predator's own instincts. Most predators in the ocean rely on sudden movement, contrast, and shape to guide their attacks. When they spot prey, their brains begin a rapid calculation. What is it? Is it real? Where is it going? How fast should I strike? The pseudomorph interrupts that process. It offers just enough information to satisfy those predator instincts, just enough visual confirmation to trigger a snap reaction. But it's an empty shell. There's nothing inside. It's a phantom, a distraction made of pigment and slime, drifting like a slow exhale in the water. Scientists have observed different species using this technique with incredible precision. Some octopuses can release a series of pseudomorphs, each one drifting in a slightly different direction, as though the animal has split itself into 3 or 4. Others use it only in the most desperate situations, when camouflage fails and escape seems impossible. It is a last resort that often works, because it's based not on brute force but on psychological manipulation. It's a deception, a lie told with ink, and it's not just about vision. Many predators also rely on chemical cues, the scent or taste of their prey in the water. But cephalopod ink contains compounds that mimic these cues, further enhancing the illusion. The predator doesn't just see something that looks like food, it smells it too. The lie deepens, the chase becomes misdirected, and the real creature slips away unnoticed. What's even more remarkable is the coordination required for this trick. The cephalopod must release the ink and then move in a way that supports the illusion. If it simply stops moving or escapes in the wrong direction, the deception fails. But time and time again, researchers and divers have seen squids and octopuses perform this maneuver with perfect timing. Ink out, body jetting away in this smooth arc, the decoy left behind like a mirror image. Some scientists believe this behavior may be a learned response. Cephalopods, especially octopuses, are known for their problem-solving abilities and capacity to adapt. In laboratory settings, they have been observed adjusting their defensive behaviors based on what worked in the past. This suggests that the use of pseudomorphs is not just instinctive. It may be refined through experience, customized to fit different threats. In many ways, the pseudomorph is like a magician's sleight of hand. The audience sees one thing, while the truth is hidden just outside their field of vision. The predator chases the illusion, not realizing the real creature is already escaping stage left. It is performance, disguise, and survival, all in one elegant, fluid movement. And there's a haunting beauty to it, isn't there? The idea that a creature can create a ghost of itself, born in a moment of fear, drifting away as a decoy while it quietly begins again. That something so soft and vulnerable can deceive something so fast and dangerous, not with speed or strength, but with a perfectly shaped lie. In the still blue silence of the ocean, this is one of the most remarkable acts of survival. A shape made of shadow, a trick of light and instinct, a creature's false form lingering like a secret in the deep. As we continue our gentle dive into the mysteries of the inking creatures, we begin to understand that survival in the sea is not just a matter of escaping, but of transforming, moment by moment, into whatever the ocean demands. Even a ghost, even a memory, even a drifting dream made of ink. In the mysterious stillness of the underwater world, vision plays a powerful role. Light behaves differently in water. It bends and waters. It softens around edges. It fades quickly with depth. Even in broad daylight, the ocean can feel like twilight. In such an environment, anything that interrupts vision becomes more than just a momentary distraction. It becomes a powerful force, and for a predator that relies on sharp eyes to hunt, being blinded, if only for a few seconds, can mean the difference between a successful meal and an empty stomach. This is where the strange and ancient magic of ink becomes more than just a cloud. It becomes a shadow in the water, a living illusion, a way of rewriting reality for just long enough to survive. To understand this fully, imagine the world through the eyes of a predator, a fish or shark cruising the reef, eyes scanning the terrain for movement. It's always watching for patterns, a sudden flick of a fin, a shift in colour, a twitch that suggests life. It's trained to react in milliseconds, to lock onto prey the way a magnet finds metal. But when a cephalopod, like an octopus or squid, suddenly releases ink, the visual field is not just disturbed, it is transformed. The predator sees what looks like a body, a silhouette, a shape floating in place, curling slightly, trailing tendrils like a real animal. The predator thinks, there it is, and moves in for the attack, but the shape doesn't behave quite right. It doesn't resist, it doesn't flee, it doesn't even move when bitten. And in that brief moment of confusion, the prey, the real animal, has already vanished. That shadow in the water isn't just a puff of darkness. It's the last known location of the creature. It's a decoy memory placed carefully in the path of danger. The predator focuses on that spot because it's been trained by instinct and evolution to chase what it sees. But what it sees isn't real. Cephalopods use this tactic not just because it's effective, but because it works perfectly in the way the ocean is structured. Water holds onto shape in strange ways. It carries scent, movement, light and shadow differently than air. An ink cloud, once released, spreads slowly. It's not like smoke in the air where everything disperses quickly. In water, especially when still, the ink can hang suspended for several seconds or more. In that time, it may twist and drift, but it does so gently, often maintaining the basic outline of a creature. This illusion is enhanced by the cephalopod's own behavior. These animals are skilled in the art of timing. They don't just release ink and freeze, they move at the exact moment the predator looks away. The distraction is paired with jet propulsion, sometimes with a burst of colour change or a sudden dive into crevices. The shadow becomes the centre of attention, while the real creature slips into invisibility. And the predator doesn't know it has been tricked, at least not right away. Many fish continue to lunge at the ink, snapping at it, chasing it as it disperses. This delay buys precious seconds, seconds that mean survival. What's even more fascinating is that ink doesn't need to be perfectly shaped to be effective. Sometimes the mere presence of a dark smudge is enough to confuse the predator's targeting system. Think of it like a radar that's suddenly jammed. The predator loses its lock, and in the chaos, its advantage is lost. Some researchers believe this kind of visual jamming may affect different predators in different ways. Those who rely more heavily on vision, like certain reef fish or birds that dive into shallow waters, are likely more easily fooled by the inky shadows. Others, such as sharks who use electroreception or smell, might need additional stimuli to be fully tricked. But even then, the ink creates a delay. It slows the reaction. It buys time, and time is all the cephalopod needs. There's also something deeper at work here, something that almost feels psychological. The ink cloud is not just a blur, it's a presence, a shape with weight. It doesn't flee, it stays, it claims the space, and for a predator that's unnerving. Predators expect prey to run, to wriggle, to dart and tremble, but an ink cloud hovers. It's too still, too confident. That hesitation, just a flicker of doubt, can short-circuit the predator's instinct. It's as if the prey said, "Here I am," and yet isn't. In this way, the shadow in the water becomes more than a trick. It becomes a memory, a false memory, implanted in the predator's mind. The creature it thought it was chasing was never there. The real animal is already gone, blending with the sand, squeezing into rocks, or changing colour behind a coral fan. The predator is left in the wake of confusion, swimming through smoke and silence. For us, watching from above, it may seem like a simple escape, but for the cephalopod, it is a finely tuned dance between visibility and invisibility, between being seen and being forgotten. The shadow it leaves behind is not a weakness, but a strategy, a masterpiece of survival in a world where being visible for just 1 second too long can mean the end. As we drift further into the secrets of the deep, we begin to see these creatures not as helpless, but as artists, painting their way out of danger with shapes made of silence and soot. Their shadows are more than defense. They're illusions, memories, echoes, and they linger just long enough to save a life. Long before humans ever dipped ink onto parchment or shaped the written word, the ocean had already discovered the secret of using ink to tell a story, not of language, but of survival. And if we trace this story back through time deep into the ancient seas of the Earth's past, we find that the inky escape isn't a recent innovation. It is a gift from evolution, passed down through the ages, a defense so elegant and effective that it has remained largely unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. Fossil records show us that inking creatures, particularly ancient relatives of today's squids and octopuses, have been using this strategy since at least the Jurassic period, over 150 million years ago. In fact, paleontologists have discovered fossilized ink sacs still filled with dried pigments, remarkably preserved in stone. In some cases, these ancient ink sacs are so well preserved that scientists have been able to extract and rehydrate the ink, writing with it as though it had come from a modern squid. That alone tells us something extraordinary. This inky substance is not just durable, it's timeless. These ancient cephalopods, called belemnites and ammonites, lived in seas teeming with their large marine reptiles, massive predatory fish and other formidable hunters. They didn't have strong jaws or armour. Instead, they survived using speed, camouflage and the sudden surprise of ink, just as their modern descendants do today. They relied on this simple but powerful tool, a momentary shadow, a dark bloom, a trick of the senses. And the survival value of this tactic cannot be overstated. In a world where being seen meant being eaten, anything that could confuse a predator even for a second offered an evolutionary advantage. Over countless generations, the cephalopods that could eject ink more effectively or time their escape just right were the ones that survived long enough to reproduce. The result? A species-level memory encoded in muscle and instinct. The ink sac became a standard feature of the cephalopod body plan, as integral as tentacles and beaks. Even more fascinating is that the development of ink as a defense mechanism appears to have evolved alongside the animal's extraordinary intelligence. Cephalopods are renowned for their problem-solving abilities, their complex nervous systems, and their ability to learn from experience. The coordination required to ink and escape is not just physical, it's neurological. Timing matters, judgment matters. These animals must sense danger, calculate risk, and execute a precise response in the blink of an eye. The pairing of brain and ink, thought and shadow, is what makes this defense so unique in the animal kingdom. It is not a panic reaction, it's a choice, made with astonishing speed. That choice is what sets these creatures apart from many others in the ocean. And while predators evolve too, growing faster, smarter, more specialized, the ink defense has endured. It hasn't been replaced or rendered obsolete. If anything, it has become more refined. In some species, the ink has become more viscous, lasting longer in the water. In others, it has been paired with dazzling color changes, or complex behaviors like mimicry and distraction. Some octopuses, when threatened, don't just ink and flee, they ink, change shape, flash colors, and swim in zigzag patterns to disorient the predator even more. This defense has also found its way into the deep sea, where conditions are vastly different from the sunlit shallows. In the deep ocean, where light is almost non-existent, certain squids have evolved to eject glowing ink, clouds filled with bioluminescent particles that shimmer like stars in the darkness. Imagine that. An animal under attack releases not just a shadow but a light show, a swirling, glowing burst that blinds and confuses in total blackness. It's the same story told in a different dialect of the sea. Even today, scientists continue to uncover new variations of this ancient tactic. Some species use their ink more sparingly, saving it for only the most dangerous encounters. Others have evolved specialized behaviors to direct their ink clouds more precisely, aiming them at the face of a predator or releasing them in timed bursts as they zigzag away. Every variation, every adaptation adds another layer to the story. And still, at the heart of it all, the same basic principle remains. Create confusion, disappear, survive. What is perhaps most humbling about all of this is the realization that we are not watching something random or improvised. When we see a squid vanish in a puff of ink, or an octopus laugh behind a decoy that drifts like a ghost, we are witnessing the result of eons of careful, silent experimentation. The ocean has tested this method again and again, against fish, reptiles, mammals, and even birds. And through all of it, ink has remained one of the most graceful, non-violent tools of escape ever created by nature. So when we speak of ancient tricks of survival, we aren't speaking of crude instincts or accidental habits. We are speaking of something far older than us. We are speaking of wisdom carried not in words or thoughts, but in the very bodies of these animals, in their ink sacs, in their minds, in the way they swim, pause and vanish. In the end, what makes this tactic so enduring is not just that it works, but that it works beautifully. The ink cloud is not a violent burst, but a drifting curtain. It doesn't harm, it distracts. It doesn't lash out, it slips away. It leaves behind only questions, only a dark shape in the water, fading slowly, like a secret returning to the deep. And the creature that made it is already gone, carried by the current, one step ahead, just as it has been for millions of years. In the mysterious depth of the sea, where life takes on shapes and colours that seem more like dreams than biology, one group of animals stands out not just for their strange beauty, but for their astonishing intelligence. These are the cephalopods, octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish, and among all invertebrates, they are in a class entirely their own. Soft-bodied, boneless, and incredibly vulnerable, these creatures should, by all logic, be easy prey. But the truth is far more surprising, for while they may lack claws, teeth, or armoured shells, cephalopods possess something far more powerful, highly developed brains, and a startling ability to think. Intelligence in the ocean is not always easy to spot. It doesn't look like books or tools or speech. Instead, it looks like decisions, split-second choices made in the face of danger. It looks like adaptability, creativity, and learning. And for cephalopods, intelligence is the silent motor behind one of the most graceful defenses in nature, the decision to ink and escape. Unlike many sea creatures that react to danger in a single, predictable way, octopuses and squids seem to assess their options. They watch, they wait, and when necessary they act with a remarkable precision. If an octopus sees a predator in the distance, it may choose to camouflage itself, blending its skin perfectly into rock or coral. If that predator comes closer, the octopus might slip away silently using the terrain as cover. But if it's cornered, if its other options have been exhausted, it makes a final decision, a calculated move. It releases a burst of ink and disappears. This is not a reaction of panic. It is a judgment call. And that judgment comes from a brain that is, in many ways, more advanced than nearly any other invertebrate on Earth. The brain of an octopus is large and complex. In fact, it contains more neurons than the brains of some small mammals. And these neurons aren't all clustered in one place like ours are. An astonishing number of them are located in the animal's arms, meaning each arm is capable of sensing, exploring, and reacting with a degree of independence. These arms can reach, grasp, taste, and even solve problems without direct instruction from the central brain. It's as if the octopus has 8 mini-brains, working in concert with the main one. And yet, when it comes to escaping danger, the coordination is seamless. The animal must sense the threat, decide whether inking is the best option, aim its siphon, release the ink, propel itself in the opposite direction, and often change colour or texture. all in the span of a heartbeat. This is not instinct in the shallow sense. This is cognition, strategy, choice. Cephalopods have been observed learning from experience. In laboratory experiments, octopuses can solve puzzles, open jars, escape from enclosures, and even recognize individual humans. They explore their surroundings with curiosity. They make decisions based on memory. And in the wild, they are known to modify their inking tactics depending on the situation. For example, a young octopus may release a quick, thin stream of ink and dart away, just enough to startle a potential predator. But if the threat is more persistent, the same octopus might use a thicker cloud or multiple pseudomorphs, or a dramatic colour change followed by an ink release and sudden retreat. It can combine tools, mix techniques, adjust based on what it observes. Even squids, often thought of as more instinct-driven than their octopus cousins, display remarkable situational awareness. Some squids in schools will coordinate their movements after inking, scattering in different directions to confuse predators. Others appear to time their ink release to distract more than one predator at a time. This level of complex behaviour suggests something beyond mere reflex. It hints at an awareness of the moment, of context, of consequence. And what makes all of this even more astonishing is that cephalopods live relatively short lives. Some species live only a year or two, yet in that brief time they develop and exhibit a level of learning and adaptability that rivals animals many times their age and size. Their intelligence doesn't unfold slowly across decades. It blooms quickly, out of necessity, and burns brightly in the short time they're alive. This intelligence is what makes the use of ink not just a defense, but a performance. It is a perfectly timed escape, a choreography of movement and misdirection, designed not by instinct alone, but by insight. Each time a cephalopod inks and flees, it is making a decision based on its understanding of the world, what it sees, what it has learned, and what it expects to happen next. There is something profoundly moving about this. In the deep sea, where so many animals follow simple patterns, here are creatures that choose, that remember, that adapt. Their soft, fluid bodies may seem fragile, but inside, they carry one of the ocean's most sophisticated brains. And that brain is used not for domination, but for evasion, for the subtle, strategic art of disappearing. They don't stand and fight. They don't overpower. Instead, they read the moment, release their shadow and vanish. And perhaps that's why we find them so fascinating. In their intelligence, we see a reflection of our own. In their decisions, we recognize the weight of thought. And in their ability to survive not through force, but through awareness and timing, we glimpse a form of wisdom that the ocean has kept secret for millions of years. As we continue drifting deeper into their world, we come to understand that intelligence in the sea is not about speaking or building or conquering. It's about knowing when to vanish, when to become the silence, when to leave behind nothing but a dark swirl of ink and the lingering mystery of where you've gone. When a cephalopod, like a squid or an octopus, releases a cloud of ink into the ocean, it doesn't simply vanish by staying still. The inking is just the beginning. What comes next is a spectacular escape powered by one of nature's most elegant propulsion systems. It's a sudden, fluid burst of movement, like a ghost shooting through water. This is how they disappear, not just into the shadows, but into the distance. With ink behind them and jet propulsion beneath them, they flee not with fear, but with precision. It is as if they were never there at all. This form of locomotion is called jet propulsion, and for soft-bodied animals with no skeleton, it is astonishingly effective. While most marine creatures rely on fins or tails to swim, paddling, flapping, or undulating, cephalopods use a different approach entirely. They move by sucking water into their bodies and then forcefully ejecting it through a narrow muscular tube called a siphon. This creates a powerful thrust that pushes the animal in the opposite direction. The process is simple in design but masterful in execution. Imagine an octopus curled under a rock, watching the world through its intelligent eyes. A predator creeps near. In a single motion, the octopus fills its mantle cavity, the soft, rounded part of its body, with water. Then it contracts the walls of the mantle, pressurizing the fluid. The water is forced out through the siphon, which can be aimed like a nozzle. Depending on how the siphon is angled, the octopus can shoot backward, upward, or sideways. The propulsion is smooth, silent, and immediate. With a single burst, the octopus can cover several body lengths in seconds. Now, layer that movement with the release of ink. The moment the animal senses imminent danger, it inks and jets away in perfect synchronization. The ink acts as both camouflage and decoy, while the rapid motion ensures that the predator doesn't just lose sight, but loses track completely. By the time the cloud begins to drift and fade, the cephalopod is already gone, hidden among the rocks, buried in the sand, or simply suspended in open water far from the threat. This strategy is especially important because cephalopods are not built for long-distance endurance. Their jet propulsion system is ideal for quick explosive movements, not sustained travel. It's more like a sprint than a marathon, and that's why the timing of their escape must be perfect. They don't have the energy to swim away forever. They must vanish in seconds, or not at all. Some species take this to incredible extremes. Certain squids, like the Humboldt squid or the neon flying squid, can jet out of the water entirely, launching themselves into the air to escape predators. These aerial escapes are rare, but breathtaking. An explosion of motion, ink, and silence, followed by a soft splash as the animal returns to the sea. It's a reminder that for these creatures, escape is not just about fleeing. It's about disappearing so completely, so suddenly that no predator can follow. And it's not just one big burst of movement. Many cephalopods can pulse repeatedly, drawing in water and jetting again and again, zigzagging through the water in a chaotic pattern. This makes them difficult to track. Combined with the swirling ink clouds left behind, this creates a three-dimensional maze. Predators are left chasing shadows while the real animal is already weaving its way to safety. The siphon itself is a masterpiece of natural engineering. It's flexible and highly directional, meaning the animal can control where it goes with surprising accuracy. By adjusting the shape and angle of the siphon, a squid can change direction mid-swim or glide in graceful arcs. Octopuses often pair this motion with arm movements, using their limbs to guide or steer. Cuttlefish, while less reliant on jet propulsion, also have this system and use it when they need to make a quick exit. Even more remarkable is the coordination required to use ink and jet propulsion together. It's not enough to just ink and swim. The animal must determine where the threat is coming from, where the safest escape route lies, when to eject the ink, and when to begin the thrust. All of this is decided in a flash. There is no hesitation, only action, guided by the deep instinct and sharp perception. In the moments after a cephalopod inks and jets away, what's left behind is almost poetic. A cloud of drifting darkness slowly dispersing, a flicker of motion that fades to nothing. The predator, confused and frustrated, may linger, scanning the water for a sign, but there's nothing, just silence and sea. For those who witness this escape, divers, research searchers, or even other animals, it's almost magical. 1 second the animal is there, the next it's gone. The only evidence is a soft swirl in the water, a fleeting ghost of pigment, and the memory of what was. In a world where most creatures run, crawl, or swim with effort and noise, the cephalopod's method is silent, sudden, and smooth. It doesn't thrash or panic, it disappears. This unique combination of inking and propulsion is more than just survival, it's art. It's a choreography between light and shadow, between motion and stillness. It's not just about getting away, it's about getting away beautifully. And as we watch these animals glide through the deep, propelled by their own cleverness and evolved grace, we're reminded that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it glides, sometimes it slips away in a whisper, and sometimes it's the creature that leaves nothing behind but a cloud of mystery and the distant pulse of movement, already far, far out of reach. When we imagine a creature defending itself, we often think of sharp claws, venomous fangs or armoured shells, physical tools built to fight or shield. But in the vast and ever-changing world of the ocean, where brute strength often means little against speed and cunning, some animals have evolved something far more subtle. For creatures like squids, octopuses and cuttlefish, their most powerful weapon is not physical at all. It is chemical. And while we often think of ink as a mere smokescreen, a visual tool, there's growing evidence that it might be far more complex than that. Ink may not just hide the cephalopod, it may affect its predator's body and mind. At the heart of this possibility is the idea that cephalopod ink is more than just a dark stain in the water. It is a mixture of compounds, pigments, mucus, and possibly even bioactive chemicals that together create a multifaceted defense system. While the visual component of ink is the most obvious to us, it's likely that predators experience the ink in several different ways at once. And each of those sensations, sight, smell, taste, texture, can be manipulated to buy the cephalopod time to escape. The primary pigment in cephalopod ink is melanin, the same substance that gives human skin and hair its colour. But when melanin is suspended in the mucus-rich ink of an octopus or squid, it becomes something else entirely. It forms a thick, dark cloud that not only blocks vision, but also lingers in the water, clinging to gills, scales, and skin. For a predator swimming at high speed, this can be more than a nuisance. It can be disorienting. Some scientists have hypothesized that ink may contain compounds that act as mild irritants or sensory blockers. These substances could interfere with a predator's sense of smell or taste, making it harder to track the escaping cephalopod by chemical cues in the water. For example, many fish rely on detecting amino acids and other scent molecules left behind by prey. If the ink clouds those scents, or introduces competing signals, the predator may become confused or misdirected. There is also speculation that cephalopod ink might contain tyrosinase, an enzyme that plays a role in melanin production. Interestingly, in certain concentrations, tyrosinase can act as an irritant to the sensitive tissues of fish. If it enters the gills or nasal cavities of a predator, it might cause mild inflammation or discomfort, just enough to distract or slow the hunter. Another potential compound of interest is dopamine, a neurotransmitter that has been found in small quantities in some cephalopod ink. While it is unclear what effect this might have in open water or in the body of a pursuing animal, its presence hints at the chemical complexity of what we once thought was just black dye. If even trace amounts of these neurochemicals interact with a predator's senses, they could temporarily disrupt behavior, movement, or focus. And even beyond specific chemicals, there's the simple but powerful fact that ink is sticky. The mucus within it can cling to a predator's eyes, coating the surface with an irritating film that blurs vision. For fish and other marine animals with sensitive outer membranes, this could be as unpleasant as swimming through a cloud of smoke and cobwebs. A predator that expected a quick chase now finds itself coughing through confusion, unable to breathe cleanly or see clearly. What makes all of this so remarkable is the possibility that cephalopods are not just creating a distraction. They may be engineering a full-spectrum assault on the predator's senses. Visual confusion, chemical misdirection, physical irritation, all in one silent swirling puff. And this defense may not even require direct contact. In some species, ink appears to linger chemically in the water, warning other animals that danger is near. It might function as an alarm signal, much like a skunk spray warns would-be attackers. In this way, ink could act as a deterrent to future attacks, not just the one unfolding in the moment. There's even the question of whether cephalopods can control the composition of their ink, depending on the situation. Could a squid produce thicker, stickier ink when it's cornered? Could an octopus release more chemical-rich ink when it knows a predator is especially persistent? While the research is still developing, the idea is not far-fetched. These animals are already known for their adaptability and fine motor control. If any invertebrates could fine-tune their defences on the fly, it would be the cephalopods. We might think of their ink as passive, as something that simply pours out when they're afraid. But that view underestimates the intelligence and evolutionary refinement of these creatures. Their ink is not just an escape tool. It is a chemical message, a sensory disruption, and a strategic defense that works on multiple levels, and perhaps that's what makes the idea so enchanting. The ocean's most ephemeral weapon, something that cannot be held or grasped, is also one of its most sophisticated. It's not loud or violent. It doesn't draw blood or leave scars. It simply changes the rules of the moment. It tilts the balance between predator and prey, not by fighting, but by altering perception. To the predator, the world becomes blurred, confusing, and unpleasant. To the cephalopod, the world opens up, a path to freedom, a few precious seconds of silence and movement, a chance to survive. And so, what appears at first to be a puff of black ink may in fact be something far more remarkable. A carefully crafted cocktail of defense, built by evolution, delivered with intelligence, and effective across sight, smell, and touch. It is not just a curtain, it's a message whispered in molecules that says, "I'm gone. You missed me. Don't try again." As we float deeper into the lives of these strange, soft-bodied artists of escape, we begin to understand that nothing they do is simple. Not even the ink they leave behind. What looks like a shadow may be chemistry, what feels like confusion may be biology, and what seems like fear may actually be brilliance. The ocean is vast and layered, stretching from the bright sun-dappled shallows all the way down into the deep dark abyss. It holds multitudes of habitats, reefs, kelp forests, seagrass meadows, rocky crevices, and open blue deserts that seem to go on forever. In each of these watery worlds, different creatures have found their own ways to live, hunt, hide, and escape. And among them, the ink-wielding cephalopods, octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish have spread far and wide, adapting their inky defences to fit a staggering variety of underwater environments. These inking animals are not confined to one region or depth. They are cosmopolitan wanderers, inhabiting every ocean on Earth. You can find them drifting beneath the Antarctic ice, pulsing through warm equatorial waters, navigating coral reefs in the tropics, and even haunting the inky black trenches of the deep sea. In each location, the way they use ink, when, how, and even whether they use it at all, has evolved to match the challenges of that specific place. Let's begin in the warm, shallow waters near coastlines, coral reefs, seagrass beds, and tide pools. These environments are bustling with life. Bright fish dart between coral branches, predators hide in the shadows, and light filters down in shimmering beams. Here, octopuses thrive. They crawl along the ocean floor, squeezing into cracks and hiding beneath rocks. In such crowded spaces, camouflage is their first line of defense. They can change the color, texture, and shape of their bodies to match their surroundings almost perfectly. But when that fails, when a curious moray eel comes too close, or a sharp-eyed barracuda hovers above, these octopuses ink. The ink in these shallow waters is intensely visual. It works because there's enough light for predators to see it and be confused by it. A dark puff or a decoy-shaped pseudomorph stands out starkly against the sand and coral, creating an illusion or barrier that distracts just long enough for the octopus to jet away and disappear into a new hiding spot. The bright environment turns the ink into a canvas for escape. Now drift out a bit further into the open ocean, the pelagic zone. This is the domain of many squid species, especially those that school together. It's a place of constant movement, with few places to hide. There are no rocks or reefs here, only the shifting water column. Predators roam this open space in search of anything they can catch, and for the fast-moving squids, every second counts. These squids have adapted to ink quickly and efficiently. When threatened, they don't hesitate. They eject clouds of ink behind them as they dart forward at lightning speed. Some release trails of ink that stretch like curtains across the water, confusing a predator about which direction the prey has gone. Others fire off multiple pseudomorphs, little doppelgangers made of mucus and pigment, each drifting in a different direction to further split the predator's attention. In the open ocean, light can reach deep, but the background is often uniform. There's no coral or rock to contrast against, only endless blue or grey, so the ink here plays a different role. It's not just about looking like the cephalopod, it's about overwhelming the senses with motion and chaos. The predator sees one target become many, the chase splinters, confusion reigns, but the story doesn't end there. Now imagine sinking lower into the twilight zone where light grows dim, filtered through layer after layer of seawater. Here in the mesopelagic and bathypelagic zones live the deep-sea squids, strange alien-like beings with massive eyes, delicate bodies, and unusual adaptations. Some of these species still use ink, but the way they use it can be very different from their shallow water cousins. In near darkness, traditional black ink may not be very useful. There's no light to block, no predator that hunts purely by sight. But nature has a way of turning limitations into new forms of beauty. Some deep-sea squids have evolved to release bioluminescent ink that glows with a faint blue-green light. Imagine a predator chasing a squid in the dark. The squid releases a glowing cloud that suddenly flares like a ghostly lantern, disorienting the predator's eyes and giving the squid precious seconds to escape. It's like setting off a flashbang in the depths of the sea. In these zones, some cephalopods have even reduced or lost their ink sacs entirely, relying more on stillness, transparency, or mimicry than on ink. The pitch-black world of the abyss doesn't always reward those who leave a trail, even one made of pigment. Here, silence and shadow rule, but where ink persists, it evolves, taking on new forms, new purposes, and new beauty. Let's surface now to the cold polar oceans, where ice covers the sea for much of the year. Underneath that frozen ceiling, life still pulses. Some species of squid and octopus have adapted to these frigid waters, and they bring their inky defences with them. In the cold, dense water, ink behaves differently. It spreads more slowly, curls more tightly, and clings longer to the predator's senses. A puff of ink in Arctic water doesn't just fade, it lingers, heavy and dramatic. Even in estuaries, bays, and shallow tide pools, tiny cephalopods have adapted their inking strategies to match their ever-changing environments. Here, the water is murky and unpredictable. Predators may hunt more by touch and vibration than by sight. In these conditions, ink becomes more than a visual trick. It may act as a chemical deterrent, an irritant, or a masking agent. The ink might hide the scent of the fleeing cephalopod, or mimic the smell of another animal entirely. So where do inking creatures live? The answer is simple: nearly everywhere. From the coast to the open sea, from the tropics to the poles, from the sunlit shallows to the deepest trenches, these animals have found ways to use ink in harmony with their surroundings. They are not confined, they are not limited. They are everywhere the ocean flows, and their ink flows with them. Each place gives the ink a different role. Each predator gives the ink a different challenge, and each cephalopod, whether small or giant, whether reef dweller or deep-sea wanderer, responds with a slightly different version of the same ancient dance. Release, vanish, survive. In every corner of the sea, they're painting their escapes in dark strokes, each cloud a whisper that says, "You didn't catch me." The deep sea is one of the most mysterious places on Earth. It is a realm almost entirely untouched by sunlight, where pressure crushes like an invisible hand, and temperatures hover just above freezing. In this alien world, life doesn't just adapt, it transforms. Creatures down here look nothing like the animals we know from shallower waters. They glow, they stretch, they drift through an eternal twilight. And yet even in this seemingly otherworldly place, some things remain familiar. One of those things is the ancient defense of ink. But how does ink work in a world without light? To understand this, we must journey into the mesopelagic and bathypelagic zones of the ocean, the twilight and the midnight zones, respectively. These are places where light barely penetrates or vanishes entirely. At these depths, the ocean is not black in the way we know black. It is infinite, vast, dense with silence. In this profound darkness, many of the tools animals use to hide in shallower waters, like camouflage or speed, don't work the same way. So nature has shaped a different set of rules. Here, animals rely on sensation, vibration, chemical trails, and most surprisingly, light. Not sunlight, but bioluminescence, light created by life itself. In the deep sea, many creatures glow. Some use bioluminescence to attract prey. Others use it to communicate, to lure mates, or to frighten predators. And among them are certain species of deep-sea squids that have evolved to use glowing ink as part of their escape strategy. This glowing ink is unlike anything we see in the shallows. It does not drift as a simple dark cloud. Instead, it shines with eerie beauty, ghostly blue or green hues that pulse and swirl as they spread. For a predator hunting in total darkness, the sudden appearance of a glowing cloud can be stunning. It disrupts the senses. It shifts attention. It buys time. Imagine being a creature in the deep sea. You're using sensitive photoreceptors to scan the shadows for prey. You see a flicker of movement, a squid pulsing through the water. You dart forward, and then, without warning, a burst of glowing light blooms before you. Not a signal, not a threat, but a veil floating in your path. You're momentarily blinded. The glowing cloud fills your field of vision. You lose track of the squid's shape. You sense movement, but where? By the time your eyes adjust, if you have eyes at all, the squid is gone. This is the deep sea's version of the misdirection. A light in the dark, a silent explosion, a performance without an audience except for the hunter and the hunted. The question remains, why would a squid produce glowing ink instead of dark ink in a place where darkness is the norm? The answer lies in contrast. In the deep sea, most of the creatures that glow do so from their undersides. It's a technique called counter-illumination, producing light on the belly to match the faint glow of the ocean above, making their silhouette vanish from below. But when something glows suddenly, unexpectedly, and from a different direction, it creates visual noise. For predators that have evolved to detect faint outlines and consistent lighting, this sudden burst of moving light is disorienting. It's like flashing headlights into someone's eyes in the middle of the night. It overwhelms the senses, however momentarily. Some species of squid release this bioluminescent ink in slow pulses, creating multiple bursts in succession as they swim away. Others produce large glowing clouds that drift and linger, confusing any predator foolish enough to swim through them. And while many of these glowing inks are not well understood, studied only by rare submersible footage and deep-sea captures, they suggest that in the darkest corners of Earth, even ink must shine to be effective. There are also species in these depths that do not use ink at all. They have sacrificed the ink sac in favour of transparency, stillness, or invisibility. These animals have body tissues that scatter light in unusual ways or absorb it entirely. They become shadows of shadows, ghosts in a ghostly world. But for those who retain the ink sac, the question becomes, what is the point of black ink in darkness? It turns out that even black ink can be useful here. In the near dark of the mesopelagic zone, where some faint blue light still trickles down, traditional ink can still block vision. Many predators in this zone have incredibly sensitive eyes that can detect the softest glow. A sudden cloud of ink, even if not glowing, can momentarily overwhelm these light-sensitive organs. It may not look dramatic to us, but to a deep-sea predator is like a curtain dropping across a dimly lit stage. Moreover, black ink contains more than pigment. As we've seen, it can contain mucus, enzymes, and possibly chemical irritants. In the dark, those chemicals can still sting. They can still disrupt a predator's sense of smell or taste. So even without light, ink can remain an effective multisensory defense. And there's something poetic about this. In a world where everything is designed to either disappear or dazzle, ink becomes both. It can vanish into darkness or bloom with light. It can linger or dissolve. It can mimic or obscure. It is fluid strategy shaped by a million years of silence and pressure. The deep sea is unforgiving. Food is scarce. Distances are great. Mistakes are fatal. In such a world, every trick must be refined, every movement purposeful. And yet, cephalopods continue to thrive here, silent, soft, and clever. Their ink, whether glowing or black, is part of what allows them to survive in this quiet, crushing world. It reminds us that even in the places where no sunlight shines, there are still performances worth watching. That even in the coldest, darkest places on Earth, nature still writes with ink, only this time the letters glow. As we slowly ascend from this alien world, we leave behind creatures who speak not in sound but in light and shadow, who vanish not with speed alone but with a mystery, and who remind us that sometimes the most powerful magic is the one that floats gently through the dark, asking no permission and leaving no trace. In the vast diversity of the ocean's cephalopods, one might assume that all species possess the remarkable ability to release ink as a defense mechanism. After all, ink clouds are among the most well-known survival strategies for octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish alike. Yet nature, in its endless creativity, has fashioned exceptions to this rule. Some species, especially those dwelling in the deepest parts of the ocean, or in environments where light is scarce or absent, have evolved without ink sacs, or with ink sacs so reduced that they no longer serve the dramatic purpose we associate with these creatures. Instead, these cephalopods rely on other, equally fascinating methods to evade predators and survive. Take, for instance, many deep-sea octopuses. Unlike their shallow water cousins, these creatures inhabit realms where darkness envelops everything, and the usual cues that predators rely on, sight foremost among them, are far less useful. In such an environment, producing a cloud of dark ink to obscure vision offers little advantage, since there is very little light for the ink to block or distort. Over evolutionary time, some deep-sea species have therefore lost or greatly diminished their ink sacs. Without the ink, these animals depend on other forms of defense. Their ability to remain motionless and silent, blending with the surrounding darkness, their soft, often translucent bodies that make them difficult to detect, and in some cases, their capacity for bioluminescence, which they use either to confuse predators or to communicate. This absence of ink in some species is a striking example of how evolution favours the most efficient strategies for a given environment. Maintaining an ink sac requires energy and biological resources. If the ink offers no survival benefit, natural selection gradually eliminates it. It's a reminder that adaptation is not always about acquiring new traits, but sometimes about shedding those that no longer serve a purpose. In addition to deep-sea octopuses, certain species of squids and other cephalopods exhibit reduced ink capabilities. Some midwater squids, for example, rely heavily on transparency as a form of camouflage. Their nearly invisible bodies allow them to disappear into the surrounding water, a ghostly presence almost impossible to detect. For these animals, inking would be counterproductive. It would reveal their position rather than conceal it. Instead, they depend on remaining unseen through sheer invisibility. This reliance on other strategies highlights the incredible versatility of cephalopods. While ink clouds are iconic and dramatic, the ocean is home to many silent battles waged without visible signs. In some cases, being still, colourless and motionless can be a far more effective defence than any puff of pigment. Predators that depend on movement and contrast to detect prey may pass right by these invisible creatures, unaware they are sharing the water. Furthermore, some cephalopods utilise mimicry and shapeshifting to confuse potential threats. They can alter their skin colour and texture with such precision that they resemble rocks, algae, or other harmless sea life. This sophisticated camouflage works especially well in environments where ink is absent or ineffective. The animal becomes part of the environment rather than a target within it. The absence of ink in certain species also raises intriguing questions about the sensory worlds of predators and prey in different oceanic zones. In the deep sea, where eyesight may be limited or absent, predators often rely on senses other than vision, such as detecting vibrations, electrical fields, or chemical signals. In these conditions, an ink cloud that blocks vision is irrelevant, but other forms of defense may still be crucial. For example, some cephalopods can produce chemicals that deter predators or even emit bioluminescent signals that confuse or startle attackers. The ocean's cephalopods, in their myriad forms, showcase nature's capacity to innovate and diversify. From brilliant ink cloud artists to nearly invisible shadows that glide silently through the dark, these creatures demonstrate that there is no single path to survival. Their strategies are shaped by their habitats, their predators, and the physics of the ocean itself. When we think of cephalopods, it is easy to picture the dramatic inking defense, the sudden cloud, the puff of darkness, the quick escape, but the reality is far more nuanced. Some species have never mastered this trick. They survive by becoming shadows, by fading into the silent dark, or by tricking senses beyond sight. Their absence of ink is not a weakness, but a testament to the diversity of life and the many ways it finds to persist. So as we continue exploring the lives of these fascinating animals, we come to understand that ink is only one chapter in a much larger story. A story of adaptation, innovation, and survival written not just in pigment and shadow, but in light, stillness, and silence. In this story, the inkless cephalopods remind us that sometimes the greatest power lies not in what is displayed, but in what remains unseen. In the quiet, watery world beneath the waves, where time seems to stretch and fold in gentle rhythms, the act of releasing ink carries a meaning deeper than mere survival. For the soft-bodied cephalopods, the octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish, inking is more than just a defense mechanism. It is a moment of transition, a fleeting farewell, a gentle goodbye whispered in dark clouds that swirl and dissolve into the sea. Imagine an octopus nestled among coral branches or hiding in a rocky crevice. It senses danger approaching, a shadow growing nearer, a predator's presence undeniable. With practiced calm, it fills its mantle cavity and releases a sudden puff of ink, a dark veil cast into the water. In that moment, the octopus is saying something without words. It is marking its presence, but also announcing its absence. I was here, now I am not. This ink cloud lingers like a soft sigh. It drifts slowly, billowing and folding with the currents, carrying with it traces of the cephalopod's essence, pigment, mucus, chemicals, before dispersing into nothingness. For the predator, this cloud is confusion and obstruction, but for the cephalopod, it's a quiet departure from the scene, a parting gesture that leaves behind only mystery. There is something profoundly poetic in this act. Unlike violent or aggressive defences, bites, stings, claws, the ink is subtle. It does not harm. It does not confront. Instead, it withdraws. It creates space. It allows the creature to slip away, unseen and unscathed. This moment of inking is like a soft closing of a door, a gentle erasure of presence in the vast and fluid tapestry of the ocean. It's an acceptance of vulnerability and a graceful assertion of agency. In a world where danger is constant, the ability to vanish, not by force but by artful disappearance, is a form of strength. For cephalopods, inking is deeply tied to their understanding of self and environment. Their complex nervous systems and intelligent behaviours suggest that this is not a simple reflex but a choice, a deliberate act made in the face of threat. The ink is a message to the world: I exist. I choose to leave now. Remember only the shadow I leave behind. It is also a reminder of the ephemeral nature of life beneath the sea. The ink cloud is transient, a momentary bloom of darkness that slowly fades. It symbolises impermanence, the constant flow and change of the underwater realm. Just as tides rise and fall and currents shift and swirl, so too does the ink dissolve, becoming part of the water itself once more. In this way, the ink can be seen as a bridge between presence and absence, between being and non-being. It captures the delicate balance of survival, where sometimes to live you must first disappear. Moreover, the ink cloud holds a subtle kind of beauty. When observed in slow motion, it unfolds like a living thing. Soft spirals of darkness expanding and contracting, trailing, tendrils curling with the ocean's breath. It is art in motion, a natural dance of fluid shapes and fading colour. For those fortunate enough to witness it, the ink becomes a symbol of resilience and grace. This gentle goodbye is echoed in the behaviours of many cephalopods after inking. They often pause, hold still, or settle into a new hiding place, becoming statuesque shadows themselves. Their bodies, masters of colour and texture, blend seamlessly into the environment, continuing the illusion of disappearance. The ink is the first step in a larger ritual of vanishing. The concept of inking as a gentle farewell also resonates on a more philosophical level. It invites reflection on how creatures, great and small, navigate danger and change. It reminds us that not all departures are loud or dramatic. Sometimes the most profound exits are quiet, subtle, and filled with grace. As we contemplate the soft plume of ink spreading through the water, we might think of it as a symbol, a moment of transition that all living things experience, a reminder that in the vast flow of existence, to vanish is sometimes the purest form of survival, the kindest way to move forward, and the most beautiful way to say goodbye. In the end, the ink cloud is not just a defence. It is a whisper of life's delicate dance with danger, a fleeting shadow that honours both the creature that released it and the endless sea that carries it away. It is a gentle goodbye, written not in words, but in swirling darkness, a quiet testament to the enduring spirit of the ocean's most elusive artists. As our journey through the silent, inky depths of the ocean draws to a close, it is time to begin the gentle ascent back toward the shimmering surface, the realm of light, warmth, and air. But before we leave the mysterious world of the cephalopods and their swirling clouds of ink behind, it is worth pausing to reflect on the profound lessons hidden within their art of disappearance. We have travelled through dark waters where creatures vanish in shadows. We have witnessed the clever strategies of octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish, the masters of ink and escape. We have learned that ink is more than just pigment. It is a veil, a message, a chemical shield, and a beautiful illusion. We have seen how this defense adapts to the countless environments of the ocean, from sunlit reefs to the blackest trenches, and how some creatures even forego ink entirely to survive in silence and invisibility. Now, as we slowly rise, the sea around us brightens, the pressure lightens, the colours return. Above, the sky stretches wide and the waves sparkle with reflected sunlight. The ocean breathes anew, and life bursts forth in endless variety. Yet, beneath this brilliant surface lies the quiet, intricate world we have explored. A world where survival is not just about power or speed, but about timing, intelligence, and the mastery of subtle art. The cephalopods remind us that sometimes the greatest strength lies in knowing when to vanish. To disappear not with violence, but with grace. To leave behind only a cloud of mystery, a drifting shadow, a whispered goodbye. They teach us that survival can be a dance of shadows and light, of presence and absence, of revealing and concealing. And they show us that in the vast, ever-moving ocean, moments of escape are also moments of profound beauty. As the ink clouds disperse and the sea returns to its calm, we carry with us the memory of these soft, clever creatures and their fleeting artistry. We remember that beneath the waves, life often chooses silence over struggle, mystery over clarity, and disappearance over confrontation. In a world that often values noise and force, the cephalopod's gentle vanishing offers a quiet counterpoint, a lesson in subtlety and survival that resonates far beyond the ocean. So take a deep breath, feel the rise and fall of the water, and let the calm wash over you. The ocean's secrets are many, but tonight we have glimpsed one of its most delicate. We have followed the path of ink and shadow, and in doing so we have touched the edge of an ancient silent world. Thank you for joining this journey beneath the waves. Wherever you are, whether by a rocky shore in a bustling city or under a wide open sky, may the quiet mystery of the sea inspire you. May it remind you that sometimes, to protect what matters most, we must learn the art of disappearing, and may you carry that gentle wisdom with you as you float through your own ocean of life. Until next time, may your days be calm, your nights peaceful, and your spirit as free as the cephalopod slipping smoothly through the ink-blue depths.